they're here or something. You know, you gotta be thick-skinned and it's just so unreal, you know. I actually, I thought some top nightclub in Brighton or something. Andy worked the Ritz or something. All these dudes and Chris Eubank was all these ex-people, ex-models, and yo, brother, give me nicknames and never met you. And you know, everything cost 10 times the price of the normal life, you know. Cigarettes and you just, the dancer, you know, blonde and young, and you just took it in its stride. You know, you can have a drink, have a cigarette, but you can just go with the flow, don't go against it. Because people used to say to me, you know, I had my chances, and I was working for, you know, selling Fender guitars and all that, and they say, Andy, you're too sensitive for this business, the music business, you know, singer-songwriting and stuff like that. You got all the talent to be an actor and everything, even the looks and all that, you know, when I was 22. But you got to learn to fuck off and be so thick-skinned and go with the flow. But, you know, I thought I was in love at the time and everything happened at once, and I just got to share and stuff. And, you know, someone with OCD kind of, okay, a lot of people have it, and they end up becoming a lot of this different world of people, actors, writers, where you meet all the, you know, celebrity world. But it's just so cool the way he did it, and we're in a kind of, you know, £10,000 a head restaurant. I'm in this world of a dream. I had a friend, you know, in a rehab, kind of a posh rehab kind of thing. And, you know, my drinking trouble was like, I looked at this guy and said, are you a doctor? He said, no, I've been sober and clean for 3 years. But he hadn't done the, whatever, the 12 steps. He hadn't changed, you know. You're born, you know, you're born with the stripes you give them, but you can change and all that. He said, I want to hang myself after 3 years not drinking. This is all sundown. And he lives in Ascot, you know. He used to sell, he was in the Formula One business, selling memorabilia, you know, helmets and things like that, you know, like for £500,000, you know. Schumacher's second, you know, most racing drivers have 2 helmets. They've all superstitions, you know, OCD. I told certainly when he died, there was no spare helmet, but he had a helmet in the rehab. You know, you're not supposed to drive there, and he drove his Bentley. You know, there's only 3 the Queen had, and he had one of them. That's how rich he was. But lonely, you know, no woman wanted to be with him. You know, he wasn't ugly or anything. He just couldn't get out of this surreal or rich world where he said in the Formula One business, you know, that, you know, behind the curtain and everything, if you've got last year's Rolex, people kind of like, not scowl at you, but just look at you like, oh, you know, it's just so fake basically, you know. They kind of snub you out, kind of. Everything's got to be, you know, designer clothes, and he sure brought it over to the rehab and stuff like that. And, you know, I kind of felt inferior to him and stuff like that, like I did to a lot of people. I'm worried about, you know, my next skipping rope, or how I get 10 quid to pay the meet, and you know, I met a girl like you who had the same attitude in real life. She's a DJ now. She worked for the Big Breakfast. I went up to Granada Studios up in Manchester to a program called Love at First Sight. I thought I was going to get a job in show business, but I was just a contestant for the show. So, and she's like that, you know, late nights, take it. There's no time for panic attacks and stuff like that, and some, you know, she used to do a few drugs and stuff like that, but she doesn't get fully hooked. But a lot of them do come and stuff, you know, Amy Whitehouse, and then you hear, she died, and was it Keith Ledger? Not Keith Ledger, that guy, Australian actor, 28, and Zopico and all that, and James Dean, so many, If you can keep up so much, the flow with, and then there's that part of it destroyed you, that maybe, or a different part of you, the creativity side or whatever, whether you're a dancer, poet, a writer, singer, songwriter, and everything, that got you in there. It's like someone once said to me, does Hollywood need actors, or do actors need Hollywood? Actors need Hollywood. I want on stage, but I've got so many mental problems, phobias and things like that. Wrong timing, wrong. I've got the talent, but I ain't got the steel nerves to go with it. And you're just so beautiful and everything like that. But obviously the chemistry, you took me under your wing, and how I got involved, through a sister or something. And I was just eating so much and so much and so much, and kind of this, all these different people, but I got a taste for this. I can't remember what food it was, and it's just so brilliant. And I kept eating, and laugh, and I was worried about putting on weight until I woke up and realized I was starving. But it's a world where people think that, almost things can't hit them, but, and then on the outside, me looking, say I was writing a biography about it, or a book about stardom, and the people in that real, the George Clooney's, that real high society kind of thing, where there's a lot of fakeness. People, some people say shadow the drown in the pool. I'm going off on a tangent here. The same bullet that kills a poor man will kill one of the richest men in the world, There's no difference. The rich man sometimes doesn't think that, however much protection he's got around him. And he forgets it, What does they say? A rich man is a poor man with money. When I was at this rehab anyway, Peter Radcliffe made a fortune selling memorabilia. Big house, everyone lonely, no girls could put up with him or anything. I think he was 37, 40. He had a lot of faith in me, he said, but it's me all over, it's just a sensitive child or whatever. You have to write, 1,000 books, still wouldn't get it all out of my system. How I see the world and this and that, life, death, afterlife, my belief. I go against man-made things and all this. But she was an ex-model for Fiat and different cars and everything. At 25, she was over the hill and they checked her out. But she was loaded anyway. She was pretty, In this, it's called Farm Place, the rehab in England. And by the way, today's the 9th, is it the 9th or the 8th? The 9th, it's the 9th of January 2012, and it's about 6:50 in the morning, and I'm at my flat in East Preston. My stomach's rumbling. I'm alone. I've got so much to do, but so much that doesn't need doing, Just made me realise this whole dream. They got into an argument with Peter Radcliffe at the rehab with Polly. And she went to South Africa like a lot of ex-models and everything, trying to catch up. Chasing the youth, She couldn't accept it, so she was drinking, sniffing coke and everything. They got into an argument, she just turned around and said, "You're so shallow, you drown in a puddle." But then the business comes out, and the girl, I was reading the headlines of one of the girls singers from Girls Aloud, hooked on booze and Zopico and the sleeping pill. That's what I was hooked on, and I wasn't even famous. But I made that guy that never be myself, you know, just procrastinating on life, and now I'm 44. I've been like, I've got parents that help me out and things, and thanks to whoever you are, and I'll probably go back to sleep and make a cup of tea now. What inspired me, I just realised that you got to go with the flow and take it in its stroll and be thick-skinned, and then maybe settle down later. But and then a lot of people are thick-skinned and stuff, but that world of creativity, acting, singing stuff, being on the road, does break them. They end up dead early or hooked up on drugs and stuff like that. So many do. But I was like that before I was famous. Panic attacks. You can't afford to have panic attacks. And, like your friend in the dream, she's doing gigs to these really rich people. They were kind of showing things, like ornaments off, and she was like some kind of dancer. I think she was on something like £1,000 a night. She did every night. Just working during the day, just work, home, change clothes, quick look in the mirror. No time for fussing, OCDing and fighting and all that. If they have it, they keep it very well tucked. And that's why they succeed. Even if they haven't got that much talent, you know, they've got that drive. And they're almost fearless, you know. An iron will, an iron willpower, you know. But anyway, I hope to see you again in my dreams, that blonde beauty. I'm kind of caught each other's glint in each other's eyes. I call it chemistry. Okay. Thank you for taking me under your wing. Bye. That's the reality. Worried about how I am, about cold, about this and all of this, and what I'm going to be able to do, and everything, etc. Can they hear me next door? Okay, bye.